Hi, folks. Welcome to today's Triton Family Web Series. We are going to let folks make their way into the session, and then we'll get started in just a moment. Just to note that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available on our YouTube channel in the coming days, so stay tuned for that. If you have questions for today's panelists, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We just ask that you not share any personal or identifying information in your questions. You can also submit your questions anonymously if you'd like, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as we can during our time today. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Margot Clifford, and I am the Director of Parent and Family Programs at UC San Diego. And it is my pleasure to have you all here today for our Triton Family web series, Staying Well, the Importance of Your Students' Self-Wellness. We all know that college is full of new challenges and obstacles, and that those challenges may take a toll on your students' well-being. So we're here today with experts from our student health and well-being team to talk about some of the resources and support systems at UC San Diego that support your students' wellness, as well as some strategies and tools that you as family members can use to support your students' well-being. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleagues, Dr. Tiffany O'Meara, the Director of our Outreach Services at Counseling and Psychological Services, and Jay Taylor, a health educator with Health Promotion Services. Thanks so much.
All right. Hello, and thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Dr. Tiffany O'Meara. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a psychologist and also our Director of Outreach Services here at Counseling and Psychological Services, which is also known as CAPS. And I'm here today with my colleague, Jay Taylor.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Jay Taylor. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a health educator with Health Promotion Services. Go
And we
ahead.
are,
Sorry.
oh, sorry, Jay. I was just going to say that we are so pleased to be here today to talk to you about your students' self-wellness.
Great. You can advance the slide. So as Margot mentioned, we're going to share some resources from both Health Promotion Services, or HPS, and Counseling and Psychological Services, or CAPS, and some other resources on campus, and discuss how parents and families can have conversations, some tools and strategies to support their students' well-being journey from afar. Next slide. Before we hop into that, just kind of want to get a sense of who's in the room, where folks are coming from. So if you could kind of take our poll, we'll leave it on for.
Oops, Margot, sorry, that's the wrong poll.
Apologies. Clicking the wrong things there, folks.
There we go.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. So go ahead, indicate, where you're from. And also if you want to put in the chat, maybe let's say you're from out of state, what state you're representing. And we'll just give it a little bit of time here. Okay, what's it looking like? Close the poll.
Looking like we've got a lot of folks from the northern half of California, a lot of folks from the LA area, and some international representation, as well as LA, Orange County, and Inland Empire, and then a handful of folks here from San Diego.
Oh, awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. That's so cool to have folks that are international and local. So thanks for being here. All right, next slide.
All right. So before we start talking about ways to support your students' well-being, we just want to take a moment to acknowledge the broader context that students are living in right now. There are so many different factors that can impact stress levels, and at times there can feel like there's just a constant stream of difficult or overwhelming events. So in addition to academic demands, students are also navigating a wide range of social, cultural, and world events that can impact their sense of safety, identity, and just their overall well-being. So if you see the word bubble here on the screen, that just highlights just some of the stressors that might be impacting students. So we want to take a moment just to acknowledge the very real impact that these experiences can have. And this is exactly why it's so important to prioritize self-care and mental health support while navigating these challenges. Next slide.
Thanks, Tiffany, for just grounding us in everything that's going on. Yeah, we want to support students holistically and that health promotion. We want to support students in developing those healthy habits, not just while they're at university, but throughout their lifetime. We focus on everything from substance use, sexual health, as well as mental well-being and physical health. Go ahead to the next slide. We offer both individual appointments and programs and events. I'm going to kind of highlight a few things here. One of our most popular offerings is called The Zone. It's a well-being lounge in Price Center, which is sort of like the University Center, the hub of student life. There's restaurants, there's conference rooms, study spaces, and lots of stuff going on. It's kind of, again, like right in the center of campus, the heart of campus. So right next to Jamba Juice, if that means anything to anyone, maybe not yet, but it probably will soon. It's open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there's programming every single day of the week. And it changes. So at least 2 programs, if not 3 programs a day. Sometimes it's things like arts and crafts. Other times it's workshops. Some past programs we had a crochet lesson with the Sun God Crochet Club. We had a personal statement workshop with career services and a sound bath and meditation with counseling and psychological services. Just today, we had a program with the registered dietitians on campus called Smart Snacking. It was a program for students to learn how to make healthy snacks to kind of support themselves through midterms, and they also got their own snack pack when they left. The Zone is also just a great place. Students can drop in, they can relax, they can take a nap, they can charge their phone. And it's an awesome way folks can make friends in a really kind of low stakes way. Next slide. We offer health coaching. So this is a non-clinical, non-medical appointment, and it's open to all students regardless of insurance type. No insurance, ship, raft, something else. So everybody can access health coaching, and it's again free. All of our health coaches are certified through the American Council on Exercise, and we support students in goal setting, realistic goal setting. Some of the topics that we focus on would be, working with a student on reducing screen time to get more sleep, managing their stress, moving their body more, how to eat healthy and cook on campus. So all those different topics, and students get to decide what that looks like. It could mean that they meet once. It could mean that they meet, that they meet every week for a year. So it's really flexible and geared to what the student is looking for. Next slide.
All right, so next I'm going to be talking about counseling and psychological services, and what are the different types of services that we have available for students. Next slide. So you can see here some of the reasons that students come to see us at CAPS. And so I'll give you a moment just to read over this slide. We definitely see students who are experiencing, major mental health conditions. And we also see students that are experiencing things like roommate difficulties, relationship problems, academic stress. So lots of reasons why students come in. Homesickness, and so just want you to know that there's no problem too big or too small, that we see students for lots of different struggles that they might be experiencing and that they want support for. So, just feel free to refer our way. If your student is struggling with really anything, they're welcome to make an appointment at CAPS. Next slide. All right, so here you can see some of the resources that we have. When I talk to students about CAPS, most students understand that we offer one-on-one individual counseling. So we offer what we call brief intermittent counseling. And so if a student needs more regular counseling or long-term counseling, or they just want to be able to meet every week with a counselor, we will help them use their insurance to see someone off campus. But we do see a lot of students within our counseling services. And in addition to individual counseling, we also have group therapy. So some problems are better addressed in a group setting. So for example, we've got a social skills group for students who are on the autism spectrum. We have a building social confidence group for students that experience anxiety in social situations. We have an eating disorders treatment group. We have a taming anxiety therapy group. So lots of different group options as well. We've also started adding services recently. So we now offer psychological testing, as well as a more immersive program for students who are experiencing a crisis. We have our Triton Lighthouse program. And so that's a program where students get more immersive care. They're seen regularly through individual counseling. They also attend therapy groups. They also attend our workshops. So that really is designed to help students from it being a crisis into an emergency. We also have medication evaluations and medication treatment. All of our services are free and confidential for UC San Diego students. As a parent, if you're concerned about a student, you can also call that phone number there and ask to consult with one of our therapists. You can always share concerns that you have about your student. We can't share any details about whether or not they're attending CAPS unless that student signs a release of information. But then if they do sign a release, we have that freedom to be able to talk with you about your student. But even if they don't have a release, we're still happy to consult with you about your student and help point you in the right direction for different campus resources. And then there you can also see our website for additional information. Next slide. So if a student is experiencing an urgent need, there is no wait to speak to someone. We always have someone available to talk 24/7, and that includes weekends, holidays, all of the time there is somebody available. They call that same phone number, and if it's after hours, they press option 2, and that will allow them to speak with an after hours counselor. And so, if your student is experiencing a crisis and they say, oh, they said that the wait was, 2 weeks for an appointment, please know that they can always receive immediate help in the case of something that is urgent that's going on. All right, next slide. One of the things I'm really excited about, though, to share with you are our well-being services. So these are our preventative programs that are designed to reach students before they develop a mental health condition, designed to teach them, resources to help with emotional coping and building resilience. So one of our programs that we have are our RISE workshops. So these are skill building workshops that are based upon concepts from the field of performance and sports psychology, as well as positive psychology and mind-body sciences. And so we have all different types of workshops. You'll see there some of the ones to highlight. We have Sunrise Session, which is like a beginning type of yoga class. Performance Lab is great for students that struggle with motivation, procrastination, test anxiety. It's one of our sports psychologists leads that program, and she adapts performance psychology concepts to academic settings. So it's a really wonderful program. You can see there a list of all of our workshops. I definitely encourage you to check out the variety of workshops that we offer to refer your students to. Next slide. We also have a program through our Triton's Flourish initiative where we collaborate with CAPS, HPS, Recreation, and Student Affairs Case Management Services, and we put together these collaborative programs. So we've got students out doing paddleboard yoga, micro adventure hikes, taking a leap of faith at the challenge course. And while they're engaging in these really fun activities, we're teaching them about concepts from the field of positive psychology that you can see there. And so all of these resources, again, are free for UC San Diego students. Next slide. Here you can see our community connection spaces. So we have about 18 different community connection spaces that we offer every quarter. And again, we offer these programs every day of the quarter. So there's always something that's going on to support students. So, a student can come meet with other students who share similar experiences. They play games, they connect, they talk a bit about relevant issues of the day. If your student is saying that they feel lonely or they're having trouble connecting to other students, this is a great way to meet and connect and get support from other students. So that's our CAPS Community Connections. Next slide. And then for students that maybe aren't sure about counseling yet, but they want to kind of talk to a therapist or a counselor and see what is that like to talk to a counselor, this is great, especially if they've got a stigma about coming to counseling. They can try out a 25-minute consultation with a therapist. It's a virtual setting. They can sign up to meet with somebody. We've got, again, one of these going on every single day. They can see a list of therapists that they can choose from. They can meet with them. And, it's great for like a specific concrete problem, stress management, test anxiety, time management, a relationship problem, or even if they want to just meet with them and say, I'm thinking about counseling, but I'm not certain if, the issue that I'm dealing with is okay to bring into counseling, or I have a question about medication. I want to run it by you. They can sign up for these, and it's kind of like a first step into counseling for students that might be more uncertain. So it's a great first step. Next slide. And then also want to share with you our iFlourish resources, which are free for students. And one of those, our most popular one, is the popular mindfulness app Headspace. Headspace has a lot of really great mindfulness meditation programs that can help with focus, relaxation, and sleep. And the thing that's really cool is not only do students get access to this for free, but they can also gift it to up to 5 friends or family members. So they can gift a membership to a parent, or they can gift a membership to a younger sibling or a sibling that's at a different college. So this is a really great resource for students for free. Next slide.
Awesome. There's so much support these students have. Sometimes it's just hard to find, where to go, where to start. But hopefully you got a few ideas here, and we'll talk about some other campus resources. So in addition to the robust offerings that CAPS has and things at Health Promotion Services, there are other different departments on campus. So there are several community centers that are really based in shared identity and experience. So things like the Black Resource Center, Women's Center, LGBT Resource Center. So where folks can come for, a lot of them have their own drop-in spaces, different events, and really meet people with the same experience or identity. Every college also has their own newsletter. So a lot of things at UCSD are college-centric. And so every college has their newsletter, their own events that just go out to the members of that college. So that's a good way to find out what's going on and what other kind of well-being activities or resources are offered just amongst that college. Then we have Center for Student Involvement, also known as CSI. There are over 700 clubs on this campus. So really everything under the sun. So it's a great webpage. Thanks. Tiffany's putting that in the chat there, a place to get involved. And if students have an interest and they don't see that represented on that 700 club list, they can start their own club. So something for everyone. We have recreation. Recreation is huge at UCSD. We have several facilities, and we're also expanding. They're adding an additional 20,000 square feet new space. So there's everything from group fitness classes, instructional classes, intramurals for folks who still want to have that competitive edge. They also do little adventures like Catalina Island. So it's a great place. And something that's really cool about the rec page is you can go on and see how busy each facility is. So that's a cool little feature, but they're great partners. As you can see, they partner with CAPS and HPS. So they really have that holistic approach and want to get folks moving. The events calendar is also a great place to just take a more broad scope and see what's going on across campus. So again, as you can see, there is something happening every day of the week, and this just kind of puts it in a little more formal order. The hub, also known as the Basic Needs Resource Center, supports students with things like food security, housing, financial literacy. There are 2 locations for the Triton Food Pantry. Every student gets 15 points, no matter what. If they use them or choose to use them or not, they get 15 points. Produce is 0 points, which I think is great. So awesome way students can get ingredients for cooking to supplement their meals, snacks. So definitely direct your student there. It's free and up for grabs. They also have different resources that show where students can get free food. Sometimes there's an activity where they maybe had food and they'll post it where there's leftover food or meals that folks can get grab and go. So the hub's great. They also have emergency housing for students, so they can connect students to that. And they have a lot of guides on their website and do different resources around financial literacy, budgeting, and planning for the future. So you'll see those in the chat. So lots going on, multitude of ways that we want to support students, not just in their physical or mental wellness, but also in their financial wellness, their spiritual wellness, their emotional connection. So next slide.
All right, we've got another poll for you here. So what is one resource that we've discussed that you think that, oh, I might want to recommend that to my student? Which one sounds like good? And Margot, I don't know if you're able to share the results of the poll once it's taken so that the audience can see it too.
I am working on that. Let me see what I
Okay.
can figure out.
All right, we'll give you a moment to look here and see which of these, do you think that maybe you'll refer to your student?
It's being a little fickle. I'm hoping that once we get more results, I can close the poll and share it. For some reason, it's not letting me share it as folks are responding. I'm
Oh,
not sure what that's
okay.
about.
It's okay.
But we've got about half of folks have responded so far. So I think if we just give folks another moment or two to consider, I'll see
Okay.
what I can do.
Oh, here we go. I don't know if everyone can see that, but it looks like first place is tied here with the Zone or CAPS Counseling. I love both of those recommendations. That's wonderful. Next is Health Coaching with 16%. And then we've got about 11% each considering RISE workshops or the community connections. So that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're considering making those recommendations. Thanks, everyone. All right. So moving on to the next slide. All right. So so I want to move to talking about just I was thinking about what are, tips that I would make to students to kind of proactively be thinking about their well-being and what they could do to increase their well-being because you could be going through a difficult time. You could be, feeling fairly stressed with your academics, but still be practicing well-being. So these are the 5 tips that if I had to only offer 5 tips, these were what I came up with. So one of the most effective ways to support well-being is by focusing on just those everyday habits that help students stay balanced and resilient. So the first is taking care of just the basics, eating regularly, getting enough sleep, and moving their body. So these are the foundations. So I say to students, these are kind of the basic building blocks. How are you doing in each of these areas? So when students aren't getting enough sleep, if they're skipping meals or they're not moving their bodies, it can significantly impact their mood, their ability to focus, their stress levels. So even small improvements in these areas can make a meaningful difference. And when I talk with students about well-being, I don't want them to feel overwhelmed by all of these ideas. I'll say, here are some things that have been shown to be helpful for students. Would you like to start by setting one goal? Maybe a small goal, because change is made one goal at a time, right? One small step at a time. So not to overwhelm, feel like you have to do all of these things, but what might be one area that sounds like a good match for you that you might want to get started with? Second, make time for what you enjoy. So college can become very focused on academics and responsibilities. So it's really important for students to stay connected to activities that really bring them a sense of enjoyment, creativity, or relaxation. I know it sounds kind of funny, a hobby, but a hobby or an interest gives them permission to just do something that they don't have to be the best in their class at. They can just have fun in it. So finding something that they can be engaged with and have fun is important. Third, create a flexible routine. So having some kind of structure in the day. So for example, a consistent sleep schedule or time blocking for study times. That can help students feel more grounded and less overwhelmed. So they don't have to be rigid with a schedule, but just predictable enough to provide some stability. So a lot of students having some kind of routine can help with their well-being. Fourth is stay connected in meaningful ways. So we know research shows that connection is one of the strongest protective factors for mental health. So even having just 1 or 2 supportive relationships can really make a big difference for students. And finally, focus on what you can control. So college comes with a lot of uncertainty, and it's easy for students to feel overwhelmed by things that are really outside of their control. So helping them shift their focus to small, manageable steps can really help reduce stress and help them feel more in control. So these strategies may seem simple, but they're really incredibly powerful, especially when they practice them consistently. All right, next slide. So then I'm thinking about, well, what are ways that you as a parent or a family member might be able to support your students? So you really play an incredibly important role in your students' well-being, even if you're from a distance. And the goal isn't to fix everything for your student, it's to stay connected and supportive in ways that help them to build that independence. So the first is stay consistently connected. So regular check-ins can help students, especially those that might be feeling homesick or lonely. So one thing to keep in mind is that every student is different. So it can really be helpful to ask your student what feels right for them. So I have a son in college, and for him, he doesn't feel like he needs as much contact from myself and my husband. But my daughter is a junior in high school, and I imagine that she probably would want everyday contact when she goes to college. So every student is different. There's no right or wrong, but it can be helpful to check in with them. What would feel right for them? And also ask them how they'd like to check in. For, some students, they might want to be connected by text because then they can respond to text message when it feels right for them. And others want a phone call. There's nothing like hearing their parents' voice, so they want a weekly phone call, or like I said, maybe some will want a daily check-in. So allowing them, though, to set the pace can really be helpful. Second, encourage healthy habits. So you do not need to feel like you need to monitor them, but you can gently reinforce those basics. How are they doing with their sleep? Are they eating regularly? Are they allowing themselves to take breaks? And you might point them towards campus resources or activities, but I suggest keeping it collaborative and based on their interests. And I think that's really key. Third is listen and validate. So when students share that they're stressed, it's natural to want to jump in and solve that problem. But often what they really are looking for is to just feel heard. So, simple responses like, oh my gosh, that sounds really hard. And oh, wow, that's so much that you're managing. That sounds really stressful. How are you doing with that? Sometimes they just want from a parent they're there. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this right now. And instead of telling them what to do, you can ask them, what are your ideas about, what you can do about this situation? What do you think might help? And that can really help support their growing independence and problem solving skills. Sometimes I'll say, what would you want the most from me right now? Would you like me just to listen and provide you support, or would you like to hear my ideas about, what you might consider doing about this? It's because sometimes they're looking for one thing or another. Fourth, support campus involvement. So encouraging them to get involved, whether that's through clubs, organizations, or some of these events that we've been talking about, that can really help them build a sense of connection and belonging. And we know that strong social support is one of those biggest protective factors, especially during that transition to college. So their first year, or a transfer student's first year, one of the biggest protective factors is getting connected some way. And finally, know when to connect them to resources. So if your student does seem to be struggling more significantly or over a longer period of time, it's okay to encourage them to reach out for support. And sometimes just hearing from a parent that counseling is a helpful option can really make a big difference. Some of our students are worried, like, what would my parent think about me going to counseling? So you just saying, hey, I think that could be a good idea, or, I think that could be a helpful thing to do. Just that, normalizing that can kind of give them that permission to seek that out themselves. And even if they don't act on it right away, you may just be implanting an important seed that they might consider later. And one final note, supporting your student also means taking care of yourself. So this transition can be an adjustment for families too, and making sure that you have your own support and you're doing things for your well-being is just as important. So you don't have to have all the answers, just stay connected, be supporting, and being aware can make a meaningful difference for them. All right, next slide.
Thank you for those ideas, Tiffany, and that final reminder of taking care of ourselves. We want to share a few helpful conversation starters. So kind of notice some themes over this webinar that's really about being curious and supportive. So asking questions that cannot be answered with a yes or no, or single answer, single word, but allow the student to elaborate, share details, and yeah, just expressing your interest. So instead of asking, have you made any friends, which could go yes, could go no, doesn't really even give you information about who those folks are. And it can take a while to form friendships on campus. So maybe just asking, who do you like to spend time with? Maybe it's the folks at the zone crafting, or the therapy fluffies that come to campus every once in a while. Instead of asking or stating, I should say, you need to take better care of yourself with, there might be students who definitely need to step up the self-care. But instead of like a statement, which may carry judgment, just asking what that looks like for them and maybe how they start doing that if they're not. The next one, are you being safe, not drinking? Definitely substance use is a concern for parents. But I do want to just mention that, nationally drinking rates are declining. And this is not necessarily a campus that has that reputation. There are so many students that do not use substances and don't intend to. So sometimes we can actually reinforce that kind of expectation that, oh, that's part of the college experience, even by checking, making sure that they're not doing that. So being curious about, well, what do you like to do on the weekends? And maybe phrasing, instead of, drinking, asking about going out, because certainly students like to go out, explore, do different things in the nighttime hours. And maybe the conversation is about how to keep yourself safe and your friends safe. I have a lot of conversations about that with students, like charging your phone or sharing your location, making sure you have a ride home, and those kind of safety elements. The next one, asking if they went to office hours. That can be really intimidating for students, and maybe they build up to that. But asking about, their favorite professor or their favorite class that they're taking. Last one, that statement, you need to make a CAPS appointment. Tiffany, talked in the last slide about how to make that referral. And also just expressing that support. Maybe it's actually not CAPS. They're going to, set up a study session with a friend, and that's going to feel like supportive for them. So it can vary. It doesn't always have to be therapy, but that could definitely be a part of it. But leading with what the student might, think is helpful. So the last slide has all of our contact information. So the website for CAPS, and we all share a Instagram handle. So UCSD SHW, Student Health and Wellbeing. That includes both counseling and psychological services, health promotion services, and student health services, which is the medical entity. So we'll always post events, different tips for well-being. So it's a good way also for you to check in and see what's going on. But we want to hear from you now. You heard a lot from us. So maybe what are some questions that you have, or even some ideas about how to support your students on campus? Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Jay and Tiffany. That's fantastic. We do have some great questions from parents here, so let me take a look and see what's going on. First up, a parent curious about how common depression is and how many students across campus are experiencing it, and what treatment for depression normally entails if students do go to CAPS.
Yeah, so for this, we see about 10% of the student body in CAPS. And so when students come in and they talk about what problems that they're coming in for, the top problem consistently is stress and anxiety. So stress and anxiety are the top reasons why students come in, but depression is the second. So it is common. Relationship problems, by the way, is the third. Um, but depression is pretty common for students that do come in. Um, and so we offer, as I mentioned, short-term, brief intermittent counseling. And so we've got therapists that take a number of approaches. So, like, for example, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist, so I'll engage in short-term cognitive behavioral therapy with students to treat depression. We have some students, some therapists that work with DBT or acceptance commitment therapy. So therapists have different orientations that they'll work from, but a lot of our treatments are empirically supported brief therapy treatments to treat depression and anxiety and other mental health conditions. If a student has a long history with depression, so this is not the first time they've experienced depression, or a more severe depressive symptoms, then we will sometimes refer them out off campus for more regular counseling appointments to be seen more weekly. And so that's a little bit about treatment for depression. We treat depression on campus, and also we will refer students off campus for treatment of depression. And then we also have medication options. So we do have psychiatrists who can conduct a medication evaluation, and sometimes we do also treat depression with medication as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, on the depression front, we did have someone share that they are particularly concerned that their student is falling into a depression and is
Mhm.
struggling to make friends, struggling to find their place socially, and they want to know what the best thing they can do to provide immediate support for their student. What's the first best thing they can do to make sure that their student is okay?
Yeah, so I think that one is that this is common. I have heard this, that students can experience depression, and also it can take a while to kind of find your peers. I've heard this, that students are lonely or that students are having difficulty finding connections. Sometimes there can be different reasons for that. If a student struggles with social skills or they get anxious in social situations, that's where some of our resources, those group therapies that I mentioned earlier, building social skills or building social confidence, that can help them get the over the anxiety or help them build those skills in social situations. And then also like getting involved in our community connection support spaces that we have. Those are spaces where they can meet with other students that might be experiencing some similar things, and just connecting with other students can be really normalizing, and can also give them a space to meet other students. For example, we have Cafecito Hour, which is a lot of students that identify with the Latino culture come and they play games and they make connections. I would also say students getting involved, with different clubs or organizations. We also have peer educator programs. So HPS has the Wellbeing Peer Educators. We have the Rise Ambassador programs for students. Career Services has peer educator programs, but getting involved in things that are meaningful to you, that you can feel like you're a valuable contributor, when you're working with students on different projects, that also can build those connections. So I would say just not giving up. If you don't have a lot of support around you, come in, make an appointment with a counselor, get connected. They can help them with goal setting. They can help them get connected to different resources across campus. But I have students that struggle that first year, and then, maybe it's the second year that they make those connections. So not to give up, to keep at it, because you never know when it's going to be that, all it takes is one or two people that you connect to, and it really improves your experience at UC San Diego. Jay, do you want to add anything about that?
That's so tough and probably really painful to watch and be concerned about your students. Just want to say that. I hear from a lot of students that same kind of feel like they're not connecting. But I also think students don't want to make the first move in connection. So they're all kind of waiting around for maybe someone to, hey, do you want to study or do you want to go to coffee? And so if your student has gone to these different clubs and surf lessons, encouraging them that it can be scary, but to maybe send a text or a DM or maybe just a general invite like, hey, I'm going to be here if anybody else wants to, because there's a lot of students that I feel like are all kind of waiting for someone to start that invitation. And so maybe that sense of like bravery, like encouraging that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Touching on the many, many groups and sort of group programs that you all have, I think that a lot of students are, generally not always willing to accept help or admit that they need help or they want help. Or they're fine, they're saying they're fine until they're suddenly not. So in those moments, what's the best way for families to gently encourage their students to be proactive and to take advantage of all of those, incredible programs that you offer without it feeling like they're being chastised or, overbearing in any way?
One of the things that's great about the programs that like Health Promotion Services offers at the Zone or some of those RISE workshops that I mentioned is that because we do collaborate with places like Recreation or the Zone on campus is like right next to Jamba Juice, it's like we do these programmings in really fun areas. And this is also touching on that loneliness as well. We do programs like we have a micro adventure hike. A student can sign up for something like that under you can frame it as, hey, this looks really fun. This looks like something that would be fun to do. And then while they're having fun, they might connect to a student or they might learn a coping skill for coping with depression or anxiety. And so I think that, starting off with kind of that soft referral to one of our workshops or programs at the Zone can be a great way to kind of get someone's foot in the door for CAPS. For example, we have a program called Surf and Flow coming up. It's going to be basically a big beach party for 300 students. So you go, you can learn how to surf, you can do a yoga class, you can participate in arts and crafts. And then while you're there having fun, you could talk to one of the counselors that's going to be there. You can ask them about CAPS services because we will have booths set up, about the different services. So I think encouraging them to first maybe consider doing something that seems kind of fun. And then while they're doing that, if that goes well, then you can bring up, hey, I know about a lot of different resources. There's this, but there's also counseling that you might consider, or that let's talk, can be an easier way to get them into talking to a counselor. So that would be my suggestion. Get them first. That's why we do this. So like while they're doing something fun, then we kind of slide in, the psycho ed as we're engaging with students. And then there was another piece, that I saw the question about the therapy group. So while there is a limit on individual one-on-one counseling, there is no limit for these workshops and the therapy groups. And so I see students the whole time they're here. They start in my Building Social Confidence therapy group, and then they can continue on in our advanced anxiety or our advanced Building Social Confidence group. I can see them weekly the whole time they're here at the university. And so students say, if students knew what this was like, they would be banging down the door, because they get support from other students for the whole time they're here. So that's another thing I would recommend is the group counseling.
Fantastic. I just want to say I think it's so important the way that you weave, fun and social engagement into well-being. I think that's not something that students necessarily think of immediately when they think of self-care and taking care of themselves. And so I think that's a great little gateway that you've created. And I think that's really important. We do have a couple of questions about sort of specific areas that students are navigating. So for students who are maybe struggling with executive function, what are some resources you might suggest either on campus or if that's something that you would refer out, to other care, something they could do on a more regular basis to help navigate that particular struggle?
Yeah, for students that may be neurodiverse, we do have, whether or not a student is diagnosed with ADHD, we have an ADHD community connection space, and that has a nice little following of students that just do struggle with executive functioning. And so again, you don't need a diagnosis of ADHD to be able to learn some of the strategies that are helpful for students that struggle with executive functioning or that have symptoms of ADHD. So that is one thing that we offer. Again, that is free and that is unlimited for students, that ADHD community connection space. We also do have psychological testing available in case students are curious about whether or not they might have a diagnosis of ADHD. And then also Office of Students with Disabilities also has some resources as well for students that are neurodiverse and that are looking for other resources. Jay, is there anything that you're aware of? Because don't you have a specialist with health promotion services as well that works a lot with neurodiversity?
Yeah, we have a health educator. It's kind of her background. I wouldn't say, she's not a clinician, but we, every year do Neurodiversity and Allyship Awareness Week, and there's different programs there. So they'll kind of pop up as more events. I did put the OSD link in the chat, so students who qualify would be able to get different accommodations like longer test times or separate testing spaces, a lot of different things. And that can also be for things that are like temporary as well. Like let's say a student gets a concussion. So it doesn't have to just be a diagnosis there.
Great, thank you. And I think we have time for one last question here, and it's also sort of a specific thing. You mentioned that academic stress is also a top driver that sends students to CAPS. If a student is navigating an academic integrity process, are there any specific tools that you would recommend to parents and family members to support their student through that challenge?
Yes. And I just want to say, I know that is so hard. I've had students that I've supported throughout the years that are going through that process, and it's so scary for them. There's that uncertainty and not knowing what to expect. So there's a couple of resources for the student as well as for you. One is just reaching out to the college dean. The college dean is a great resource. You know, sometimes people think about a dean as having to be this tough person, but the deans really care. So there's 8 different deans for the 8 different colleges. So reaching out to your college dean, you can do that as the parent, the student can do that and just express their concern about that process or any fears that they might have. But the deans are really interested in like knowing what's going on with the student, hearing their individual story. And so that's a great resource. Another thing is that academic integrity also has peer mentors. So I'll put here in the chat, peer mentors are students who have gone through the academic integrity process themselves and have made it through the other side. And so they're there to support students that are going through that process. So that's one thing that I would also suggest that they go through. But just like we said before, just being there for the student, providing that validation of how this is a scary thing to experience. There's a lot of uncertainty and you don't know what to expect. Try not to think about the worst case scenario. Let's gather information. Let's seek out resources to provide support. And other students have gone through this. You're not the only one that's ever gone through this process. You're going to be able to get through this and be okay. So just being really reassuring, I think.
Great. Thank you so much, Tiffany and Jay. It's been so wonderful to have you here. We are so grateful for all of your expertise and wisdom. And folks, I just have a couple of closing notes to share. This, as I said, video will be shared on our YouTube channel in the coming days. And if you do want to share this recording with anyone who maybe wants to be able to follow along in a different language, you can use the caption feature on YouTube to translate the subtitles into any language that you choose. So keep that in mind. And, with that, we just want to say, if you have any questions that we weren't able to get to today, because I know we couldn't get to everyone, please feel free to email us at parents@ucsd.edu. We'd be happy to answer them for you. And thank you all for being part of this today and for being part of our community and for the many ways that you support your student throughout their UC San Diego journey. And we look forward to seeing you at a future Triton Family web series. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.